6 o'clock on Thursday, January 9th. We were just discussing how this is not our usual meeting time. It's usually on the first Wednesday of the month, so just be aware of that if you're watching at home. But we're here, going to do the roll call. Councilmember Elaine Mosher-Campoli.
I am here.
Okay, we do not have our new member, Councilmember McHugh, is not here to join us tonight. And we also don't have Dr. Georgeson, which is okay. You know, it's freezing and it'll be all right. We all miss them, but we'll be okay. All right, so, and I'm here. The minutes from December 11th, I thought looked great personally.
Yep.
Okay, great. By acclamation, those are great. Our guests have changed. Topic A is our guests. But actually, I just jumped over what I was going to do, which is that I had Mr. Hamill reach out to me today and asked to address the committee. So we're going to have a public comment session. We're going to squeeze that in there to allow him to speak. So
I can speak last if you want me.
No, that's great. Go for it. Yep. And just, you know, same sort of council rules. Just tell us who you are, please.
Do I have the 3 minutes?
No, things are a little bit more relaxed
Yeah.
in a committee.
Okay. John Hamill, 20 Gardner Place, apartment 91 in the good old city of Belmont.
Excellent. Thank you.
What I'm curious of is, Tuesday I mentioned about having Senator O'Brocker come to the common council meeting
Mhm.
to talk about the homeless situation and how to have a bipartisan solution.
Mhm.
Could you guys have him coming here as well as the Housing Commission and other commissions as well?
That's a good idea. I mean, that would be certainly, like I said, you know, it's a less formal venue. So here, maybe the Housing Commission, maybe we do a joint meeting, maybe we just do something
Oh, that's a good
where,
idea.
you know, if we have a guest like that who we are gonna need to prioritize their time, we'll probably wanna get as many interested people in the room as possible. So I think that's a good suggestion.
I know he suggested it to Mayor Dronick
Uh-huh.
this past year during the summer, and he said that he didn't want to bother him with it because it was an election season, which I thought, and please don't take any offense, but I thought it was a bunch of ridiculous answer since he sees the papers and he reads them and it's like, why not come to an event like that to discuss it?
Right. I mean, I think in terms of prioritization, right?
Right.
It would be a priority for him. But it's certainly something that, you know, I like the idea. Like, I know Councilmember Mosher-Campoli's been liaising with the county like a lot, even before that was your like
Yeah.
assignment. You
Yeah.
know, so that's I think really awesome because it's not just an owning on a problem, you know, and knowing what is happening in other areas of, you know, influence and what's happening in the state and how we can work together is really important. So comment noted, and yeah, I think there's broad support for that. So we can follow up with the mayor and just see if he'd be willing to do it or someone on council wants to take the lead on that.
Okay.
But I like the idea of it just being like more of a get together than like having him come to a meeting where everyone sort of is looking for a presentation.
Right.
Yeah.
But if it was something like this, you know, where we did that with actually Mark Maldonado might be another good one, especially because he's like, I think generally broadly sort of the Utica area, which I know also has a lot going on in this issue as well. So yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. So he came and we just sat around and it was a public meeting because we were all here, but it really was just like us and the congressman, and he only had a little bit of time, so you know we got to talk about a few things, but it definitely was more relaxed than having him come to a meeting. So that's a good suggestion.
Yeah. I think that would fit in like with what we were talking about, you know, helping to facilitate and building those connections. They'll
Yep.
help, you know, bring what we need, you know, and to the city and help us find out what solutions exist out there.
Right. And it's not like a Democrat versus Republican, it's like, come now, let us reason together what, you know, can be done, what can't be done, that sort of thing.
Yep.
Right, that's all
Cool.
from the peanut gallery from
All right. Thank you. Okay. Just taking some notes on that. Okay. Thank you for coming.
You're very welcome.
Okay. So as as I started to say and then rewound myself, our guests have changed for this evening. We still have someone here representing the Utica Center for Development, is that
Yes,
right?
Carrie, and I will note that Gary was hired, last month, I think?
Yes.
Or recently, to
Okay.
start the services here. Carrie was hired 2 days ago.
Yes.
So,
Oh.
so she's graciously come to the meeting, to tell us
Wow.
more. We may, in the future want to still invite Gary back, but thank you
Yeah,
for
I
coming.
think so. I don't really, I have had this job for 2 days.
Okay.
I know, about Gary's previous work, so I could speak on that a little bit,
Sure.
but not really about the specific agency that we will be working for at this time. But
Okay.
Gary is an incredible resource, and I feel very lucky to be, working under him and learning from him now, because I think we'll be able to bring so much of his knowledge and then my local knowledge together to provide services for veterans and other, people in crisis in the county.
Cool.
Absolutely, and I got a chance to sit down with Gary a couple of weeks ago and talk more about that Utica Center for Development.
Oh, awesome.
So that's the program that is starting up in Oneonta. That's the one that we had talked about, the possibility of using the Armory
Yeah.
too. And so I know that he's very excited about starting up some of these services
Mhm.
that they've been talking about, like, oh gosh, what was he saying? They're gonna be focusing on things like with mental health and homelessness, right? Like,
Correct.
did you get hired as a care manager, or
that-
something like
yes.
that? Yeah,
Right, as case management.
case
And
manager,
so,
yeah.
we will do, especially for unhoused veterans, but, veterans in crisis and other, food insecurities, as
Okay.
well. So we would have hopefully a food pantry, clothing, room or closet of some sort. Eventually, he would like to have some kind of day room or place that veterans can go to congregate and meet with each other than, we have the Legion in town, but, not all veterans wanna be in a bar for,
Sure.
that sort of camaraderie, but,
Sure.
so those are some of the services, and then, he works a great deal with getting, veterans benefits that
Yeah,
are,
that's
that they are due. That's one of his biggest strengths. He really started a program like this in Columbia County before he came here, and he did that for, many years. And then moved to Otsego County last year to get married to my mom, so he left his position in Columbia County. So when he got here, he noticed the, large lack of services for veterans in the area, so.
Yeah. Is there any data on how many residents are veterans in
I
the
do not
area?
have that data. I'm sure that,
These are my notes from
Yeah,
my
go ahead.
meeting with him, but I jotted down that it was about 10% of the population.
Wow.
So, yeah.
That's big. I'm surprised to hear that because we're quite a ways from like the nearest military sort of
Yeah.
bases. and
So that's why I'm
things,
looking
but-
at that number. I think that I need to clarify that with him and see, what, we're
Sure.
talking about with that. But, he noted that it was a significant portion of the population.
Wow.
I know one of the other things he mentioned that he was really excited about was getting folks involved with horse therapy.
yeah, he
Yeah.
loves
Oh,
that very
so,
much. He's
yeah.
already found some local farms that are interested in taking that
Awesome.
over. He works with a really, fancy horse farm in Columbia County that started a program for veterans for horse therapy, and it has been pretty incredible. So that would be fantastic if he was able to do that. I know there are a couple of farms in the Lawrence area that are interested in taking part in that.
Cool. So in terms of helping veterans find stable housing, do you have any insight into like what that looks like?
I do not.
Okay.
I'm sure Gary does though,
Yeah,
because
he
he's done
does.
so much, and he has not just experience working with homeless, he's worked in municipal government before,
cool.
so.
Yeah, he's pretty incredible. He's really a wealth of knowledge. I feel like from what I, like to do, it is going to be incredible help community as a whole is gonna benefit a great deal from Gary, his, history and his knowledge, and, you know, he's really pretty incredible. We're lucky to have him.
So I think actually the connection happened because I think Gary came to that housing summit that we were just talking about.
Oh,
And
okay.
and I'd already known him, so we stopped and we chatted.
Yes.
And then I mentioned to him about the Utica Center for Development that we talked about, you know, with the Armory presentation not too long ago, and got them connected up. And then next thing I know, he's like, I got a job there.
Right.
I'm starting services here.
So
So that was a great connection that came.
Utica Center, they run the Dwyer program for that county. And
That's
every
right.
county has a Dwyer program or has money that's federally funded money.
Okay.
Is it it's either federal or state, I'm sorry, but the Dwyer program. So each county is allotted a pretty substantial amount of money that needs to be then distributed to veterans in whatever way it's needed, housing, food,
Cool.
whatever the services might be. And this county has that money, and the money hasn't really been allocated to veterans the way it should have been.
Yeah.
So when Gary came, he asked, you know, he joined the Legion, and he came to city council meetings. He came, you know, to see where he could be of service in the area, and found out that Dwyer money wasn't really being allocated correctly. So he was trying to figure out the way to be able to manage that. And then the Utica Center, they run the Dwyer program, or they manage the Dwyer program in their county. So he was able to slide that all in together. So
Wow. Well, that's very cool. I
Yeah.
didn't know about the Dwyer program, so I wrote it down and put a star next to it
Yeah.
because I want to learn more about that.
I can send you a link too, because I
Oh.
just looked it up recently.
yeah, the Dwyer program's pretty
It's
incredible.
really, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's great. I mean, it sounds like it's going to be a really good benefit for.
We need
The
a
community.
space is the only thing we still don't
Okay.
have office space,
Okay.
as far as I know.
So office space, and then you're looking for something ideally where you can have more of a community center sort of feel.
Sort of,
for
yeah,
veterans.
some space. So
Yeah.
I know that he had spoken to the mayor about
Mhm.
the armory,
Yep.
which would be maybe still a possibility. I'm not sure. I know
Okay.
that the roof was leaking
Yeah.
at the armory, and I don't know what the accessibility is like I don't know what the handicap accessibility at the armory is like. But
Yeah.
that's it's a pretty big requirement that
Right.
that the building is really accessible to everyone, and,
Right.
you know, especially veterans. Many older veterans that are coming in for services have some mobility issues and need to have have accessibility be addressed right off the bat.
Okay.
It does look like the Dwyer program is a state program.
Okay.
As soon as I said federal, I realized, oh, it's
No,
every
it-
county,
yeah,
so it's gotta be
New York,
state.
New
Yeah.
York State Senate, I see it on here, so, because I just looked that up to send to Katie.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
And again, I've only had this job for 2 days.
Yeah, I really appreciate you coming,
I'm
just
just
to
giving
share,
you
you
what I
know,
got.
since Gary couldn't come, and,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I would definitely be interested in some statistics on like population, on some of the different issues that are facing our veteran population within the county. I'm sure that's all stuff that the existing sort of framework looks into, but we may just not have available to us right now. But that's very interesting stuff. So
And that's something that I can relay to Gary, you know, and try to get him back on another meeting with us.
yeah, that sounds
Yeah.
good. Okay, cool.
I'm sure he'll be happy to come to whatever.
Yeah, he was really
meetings,
looking
yeah.
forward to it.
Oh.
He was excited about
He's
it,
really looking forward
Oh.
to it, yeah.
so.
Okay, cool. Well, doors always open for anybody who wants to talk about, the issues facing our community and what we can do together to make them better. So that would be great.
And do we happen to know the number of, I know that the number of unhoused people in the city of Oneonta is about 70 at most of the time, at this time, but do we know how many of those people are veterans? Do we have that
You know what?
information?
Kind of what I was
think
wondering.
that this 10% number might be 10%.
10% of that,
Of that population.
which
I think
makes,
that makes more
that
sense.
makes sense.
I think it's 10% of the homeless population, so I wanna
Okay.
correct what I said before.
Okay, interesting.
But we can get clarity, I'm noting some things, like.
Yeah.
Also, I can call him if he's
Oh.
maybe made it very clear that if anyone has questions, I should call them.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
very
it's
nice.
So thoughtful.
Yeah, I know that there was the pick count not too long ago.
Yes.
But I don't have that data
I
memorized.
think it's
so-
actually coming up for this month.
for
or
this
did
year.
it just
Yeah.
happen?
No, it's no, I guess it was last year. It just doesn't feel like it was that long ago.
Yeah, Thursday, the 23rd.
Okay,
It's
cool.
coming up. So the pig count is the point in time count, count of unsheltered or sheltered and unsheltered people experiencing homelessness on a single night in January. So right now it's scheduled for Thursday, the 23rd at 12 a.m. to Friday, 24th at 12:01 a.m.
Okay.
And then there's a blizzard date. They said it was formerly known as a rain date, but now it's a blizzard date for Monday, the 27th.
Okay. Great. So we'll get some data on that from them
Yeah.
as well.
And that email actually came from Toya Lane,
Oh, okay.
from OFO, who had come here a couple months ago.
Yeah.
And spoken with
I
us
think
about
the
emergency
current
housing.
OFO count is saying 70.
Okay,
As far as I
Yeah.
knew, maybe a couple weeks ago it was 70, but
Gotcha.
still it's pretty as current as I thought.
Okay. Okay. 70 residents. Okay. Was there anything else that you wanted to share or get out of this conversation, Elaine?
I don't think so.
Okay, cool. Well, it's nice to know that because I know that we had the presentation about the Utica Center for Development, trying to solidify their presence in our area, so it's nice to hear that there's some progress toward that.
yeah.
Yeah.
And congratulations on your new
Oh,
job.
thank you so
Yeah,
much.
you're welcome.
Yeah. It was a hard decision for me to make, but I feel I'm excited about it.
Yeah.
So.
Can I ask what you were doing?
I work for domestic violence, so
Oh, okay.
I'm going to, I
That's also a hard job.
yeah, so I feel like
Yeah.
I have a very hard time walking away from that entirely, so I think I'm going to stay on as a sub, so.
Okay.
Along
still
with
be-
your full-time schooling and
Yeah.
everything else.
I felt like I needed one more, add one more thing, right, so.
I know the feeling. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. Well, thank you again for coming. You're welcome to stay, of course. I know sometimes that feels like a dismissal, but it's not. Just move on
You're
to the
welcome to
next
say,
thing.
but you do not have to either.
Right. Yeah, if you wanna go home and get cozy. Okay, so we weren't able to have a representative from Purdue, so that's fine. Like I said, the door's always open. I think
Yeah.
it's great, just the more that we're aware of what's going on, in the community with other municipalities, things like that, the more we can just kind of put our heads together and think outside the box and try to come up with things that might actually benefit people, so.
Yeah.
I would love to hear from them soon, and I know you had mentioned MCAT.
Yep, I was gonna say MCAT is the other one that I've been
Yeah.
speaking to. I think they're hoping for February as well. I'm waiting for confirmation. And then the other folks that I don't yet have confirmation from is actually my employer, Southern Tier Connect.
Okay.
I had invited some folks there because they had put together a presentation that linked housing with health outcomes.
Okay.
And I asked them to bring that to us and give a presentation. So,
Cool.
yeah, I will just keep in touch with these folks and we'll see when we can get them scheduled.
Okay, great. Okay. Great. So in terms of the committee goal alignment, I think that is a conversation that's best when we're all here.
I really
We can talk
agree.
about.
I mean, you
what
and
we
I
want.
have been doing this work together now for at least 6 months, right? And it's newer to Shannon, and it would really make sense for us to have that discussion, all of us.
As a
together.
group,
Yeah.
totally,
Yeah.
yep. And I think Dr. Georgeson, even though she's not
Oh,
an
yeah,
official
and Dr.
member
Georgeson, that
of the
would be-
committee,
Mhm.
she brings a perspective that's really helpful,
Yeah,
so, based
I
on
agree.
her work. Okay, so tobacco-free communities, I'm excited to get going on this. Did you have a chance to look at this?
I did, I checked out are you talking about the list that was sent? Or-
Oh, yep, the list, we have the
Yeah.
list, but there's also this, the model statute from the Public Health
Oh.
Law Center. which is like 40 pages long.
Yeah, I mean, I
Okay.
did at one point, but I haven't recently.
Yeah, no,
so-
that's okay. So that's what I'm sort of working off of. This is like the boilerplate, you know, it has the kitchen sink in it. And so
Is that something that's online on the education?
yes, it's online,
Did you say it's
and if you go to publichealthlawcenter.org, you could probably search Public Health Law Center model tobacco. Here, this is what you want to search. But you can see I went through it and I kind
Yeah.
of highlighted and crossed out
Yeah,
what I
so
thought
there's
would be
a lot, we don't need
Yeah.
40 pages.
no. And some of the things I think just wouldn't be as effective in our municipality. Some of the things I think are already covered by like the state legislation. So I have a couple of DMs circled, which is like ask the city attorney whether or not this is necessary. But yeah, if you find that. And so I went through that and I did all that. But then I saw today when I was looking for something else that the American Heart Association actually drafted a model ordinance for our municipality.
Really?
Yeah, and it's very like succinct and it's great, and I haven't made it all the way through, but I will make sure that
This is the one that Jennifer Hill works?
so
right?
she doesn't work for the American
Oh,
Heart
but she
Association.
provided us some of
She-
this
yeah,
information.
she
Okay,
connected
okay, got
us
it.
with-
That's right.
So she provided
Okay.
us with the public health law center resources, but she connected us with the American Heart Association, and actually they were willing to come and make a
Okay.
presentation about successful tobacco retail policies. But prior to that, they had provided this
Okay, I got it.
model statute,
There were a
which
bunch of
is
them, but I got the right one. I think.
okay, cool. It's so I haven't had the time to go front to back on it because I just found it this afternoon in my email and went
Okay.
but this one, this like 40-page one, I have front to back on, and so I thought maybe we could just just go through it.
Sure. Yeah,
And
why
talk
don't
about the
now that
things
I
that
have it
make
open, you
sense.
can tell me what page and,
yeah.
you know, maybe. And
Okay, cool. So let's see. So on page 4 of the model ordinance, they talk about in the notes. Do you have it, Carrie, too? Okay, cool.
Okay.
I was gonna say I want you to follow.
See, I have
along,
it right
too, so
here.
you can tell. They talk about the findings portion, which is I deduced sort of what we usually, when we adopt a resolution, what I refer to lovingly as the whereas
Yes,
portion, where
yeah.
we say whereas about 100 times
Yeah.
about the things why we think it's
Why?
important.
Yeah. Why? we
Right.
want it.
And what I found out is that it says that if it's challenged in court, the findings, the motion, is a record of factual determinations made by the legislative body when considering the ordinance, so it can be used to defend the
Oh, okay.
ordinance
I
in
see.
court, which I think is
Gotcha.
kind of cool. Especially if those things are then tied to like studies that we,
Yeah.
that we can reference. So-
Whereas, and that's where
Yep.
we could pull in some of these other, information that we've got, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Whereas,
Alright.
this study done by whatever says
Mhm.
that X happens. So I think that portion's going to be really important to go through. They have it at the very end, which is weird
Oh.
to me because we
I was
do it
gonna
at
say,
the
we
beginning.
always have it at the beginning.
Yeah. But so we can go through. I think once we read it, like maybe we can go through, and I think that's the part that requires the most kind of
The whereas
narrative,
part.
descriptive. Yeah, it's like why are we doing this?
Mhm.
Okay.
Because the actual, this is what we're doing, might be,
Yeah.
a little more concise, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, definitely. So, okay, so section 2 is the definitions.
Mhm.
Just right off the bat, I was like, what is an arm's length transaction?
I know, I was
have
looking, I was like, these
never
are a
heard
lot
that
of-
before. I feel like I don't know, that's a DM
Okay.
sort of, circle thing. But I think that when I go through the rest of these, they're all, this is really standard,
Okay.
the definitions portion.
Yeah,
They all seem like reasonable
okay.
things to me. One of the things that I liked about this ordinance in particular, the one that the Heart Association did for us, says that it only applies to buildings, but this one actually specifically prohibits delivery services.
Oh, okay.
So I like that a lot. item K in the definitions defines delivery sale.
Okay.
So I think that's really important to include, so I gave it a little exclamation point. Boop, boop, boop.
I don't agree. Okay. All right.
Yeah,
Interesting.
so if,
I
I don't
hadn't even
know,
thought about that.
yeah. Let's see, actually, I ended up crossing this out, but they were talking about, one of the things that's in there, has to do with like banning the sale of individual little cigars, that's item P. And,
Oh, okay.
yeah, I mean, I think that's getting into the weeds a little
Okay,
bit of
yeah.
what we're trying
I
to
was
do.
gonna say, there's a lot, I mean, we're going into like, we got.
Yeah, there's like Z, I
Yeah.
mean, AA, it's really intense,
Okay.
so.
Movable place of business. Okay.
Yeah. And I like that one too, because that's sort of the same thing where it's like, you know,
Make sure we define what the
if
person
you
is.
define it, I know, I have a question mark there. I
Fine
hesitate to define a person as a
I like it.
corporation anywhere in words in our
Yeah,
code.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's why I have a question mark there. I'm like, I don't know if we wanna.
Would that really fit? Yeah, exactly, with the wording that
Right,
we have now.
right. And so in this one, I'm just going back and forth between them. In this one, they have, I think they have applicant, and then they have like proprietor. Maybe they don't even have
Yeah, I did see
proprietor.
applicant, yep,
Yeah.
proprietor is here.
Yeah, and so I think that's sufficient. I
Yeah.
don't know if we need to
I
like.
don't know that we need to
continue.
define person as.
Yeah, okay, I agree. I'm gonna cross that out. All right,
That
good.
seems a little,
Yeah, I felt
Much.
that.
already have a person defined as a corporation in code, by the way.
We
okay.
do? Okay.
It's more about
It's a
consistency.
standard legal definition.
Yeah,
I just don't.
and it's more about
makes sense,
consistency.
yeah.
If it's consistent, you know, yeah.
Sorry, I didn't wanna burst your bubble.
Oh man. We gotta pack it up and go home now. I have to think about that for a little while. Yeah. Okay.
6:33 stuff.
I didn't find any other things where I was like, do we need this or is this weird? But it is a lot of
Yeah, I'm
definitions.
skimming through it now, so, I mean, that sounds as a good starting place.
Yeah, I think as we go, we may be able
Kind
to
of pare it
eliminate some
down,
of these
maybe?
things. That's
Okay.
what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I agree, it's probably better to start off a little bigger and then cut it down than
Yeah.
try to build it up.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Okay.
And I like, at the end here it says, tobacco product does not mean drugs, devices, or combination products authorized for sale. And actually, I would probably put that under,
For cessation products, okay.
yeah,
Yeah, no,
which I think
like
is
that.
helpful.
That's a good idea,
Um,
because that's a distinction that I had not considered, but
Yeah, where I was finding there's something that says exclusions, that might even be in here. In this one, sorry, I'm trying to remember where I've read things now.
I see we're even going beyond Z, we've got AA and DD.
I know it, oh, so,
Okay.
nope, I'm into the whereases. There is a section for exclusions.
Here, why don't you let me know, I'll try to search it.
Okay, it's, you could search tribal, because I know that it excludes, tribal uses, and, is that in here?
Yes,
You found it?
21?
Okay,
Oh wait, hold on, that's the number. Yeah, it is 21. So I know sometimes the numbers on the
yes, that's
side
right.
don't match up with the PDF number, but yeah, it is number
Okay,
21.
Yeah, nothing in this article/chapter prevents the provision of tobacco products to any person as part of an indigenous or tribal practice or a lawfully recognized religious or spiritual ceremony or practice. Nothing here shall be construed to penalize the purchase, use, possession of a tobacco product by any person not engaged in tobacco retailing. So that's the customer protection that
Yes.
Jennifer was talking
I
about.
remember we talked about
That
that.
you don't penalize the person who bought
Right.
it, you
Not the-
penalize the person who sell it. Who
Yes,
sold it.
I remember we talked about that, especially with youth and that
Yeah.
whole dynamic and making sure that yes, it's not the youth
Yep.
who would be in trouble for the purchase, but yeah, exactly.
Yep.
The adult who sold it to a useful person.
Yep, and I feel like we could put this tobacco product, just to make it a little bit more tightly packaged, we could put this tobacco product, doesn't include FDA covered things,
Oh, the
in the
this whole-
exclusions
yeah.
portion.
Mhm.
I think that would
Okay.
be good. Okay. One of the things that I thought, let's see, was interesting is in the note here, I want to understand better the interplay of this legislation with cannabis.
Okay.
Cause I don't know. I don't know, yeah, some of these things like tobacco retailing, AA, like, do we really need that? Probably
Are you
not.
back on the definitions?
Yeah, just, I'm still on page 8, I'm just going
Okay.
kind of through.
Hold on, I'm way off because I was searching.
Oh, okay, got it.
Okay. Okay, I see that.
Let's see.
Retail license, facility.
Yeah, so, that is actually my favorite part of
Yeah,
this.
no, because I know that's really why you brought this up, is the youth oriented, you
Yep.
know, and, yep.
This one versus the other one, which says, and this models the state law, which is,
Which is that one,
schools.
the American Heart Association one? Okay.
Yeah, this one models the state one, which is, it says public parks and schools. This one is, I think, much more
Way more
comprehensive
specific.
when you
Yep.
look at CC.
Mhm.
It's a lot of things. And when I look back to the list that was sent to us today, I actually had a question about that list, but, you know, when you think about almost all of these, right, like, we have Stewart's and Sunoco, which are at the corner of Main and River, which is definitely within however long, 500 feet of the park.
I didn't see that there was a link. I see that there's a link
For the map?
to the map. I didn't see that yet. Okay. I'm
Yeah, I
gonna
didn't
look at
click
that
on
map.
the map either, but
Is
I
that
was
the
just
map
trying to
that we
think.
were talking about where it was gonna like show overlap or something?
Oh, you know what? I don't know, cause I never actually
remember-
clicked through the map. I just saw the list and
I
went,
know.
oh, great.
It was, I know she sent it just recently.
Yes, she sent that, I think, on
Okay,
Monday.
Yep.
Okay.
Because I think what she had talked about was making some kind of map where it would show like distances, right, and
Yeah.
overlap. This is a map, but I don't see further information.
No, it just
Okay,
says, it just shows
so-
Google for Red Apple Food Mart.
Oh, wait, Odeon. Yeah, John. Yeah, I don't know.
Interesting.
I'm not
All right,
sure
I'll
if this
follow
is
up
the
with
right
her.
thing.
Yeah,
There's even a map. Yeah, I'm not sure. There's other things on.
but just like,
Okay.
just thinking about, you know, so we've got the Stewarts and the Sunoco, which are pretty close to the Boys Club. I can't tell how far 500 feet is, but I think it's pretty far, right?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So there's like the Boys Club and Riverside, obviously, which are right there. There's the park that's right there. There's the Oneonta Teen Center, which would be a youth-oriented facility.
Mhm.
And even if the primary use, so it says this, a recreation facility open to the public, even though it may be used for other purposes. So
Mhm.
even if it was something where we were to open the armory up to other uses, but the teen center stayed, it would still count, which I think is
Right.
cool.
Yeah.
The Quick Fill is the Red Apple, or it's not Red Apple anymore, but I grew up here, so it's the Red Apple, across the street
Oh,
from the
nice.
library.
I only know it is Red Apple as
Oh,
well.
good, okay, Dollar General Smoker's Choice, of course, right near the library, which is near a public park. New York Food Mart. Is that the one, so she mentioned that, I should just Google it. That seems to me
Oh,
like.
I think that's the one that's on like the same block as Roots, right?
That's what I was thinking. I didn't notice that they sold tobacco products.
I have not actually been in there yet.
I went in once, but like briefly.
New York Food Mart, 167.
Yeah.
Cause I know there's one that's right up by Walling Avenue.
Yes,
Oh, no,
that one's
this is-
different.
This is 167.
Basically, just to share this weird little tidbit, I remember building 203, and that's
Oh,
all I remember.
yes.
So I just go like
Yes.
left or right of building
Building
203.
203. Yes. Oh, wow.
Wait a second. This is
Not many people know
258?
that.
Okay, that's helpful too.
Yeah, it's the one that's like
Okay, interesting. I didn't know they sold
down on
tobacco.
that end. I have not actually been in there yet, and I know that they had an opening, but okay.
Yeah. Well, and so what I noticed on here was it doesn't seem to include like so United Foods isn't on there, and I know they have tobacco because
Right.
I eat there all the time.
Yeah.
It doesn't
They
include
include
the
waffles.
two that were brought up to us by Corey Rowe recently in an email. The one,
Okay. Yeah, because I know that there was a list that was not just city.
right? And she does include
Okay.
town locations. So there's the one smoke shop,
Oh, I
which
see
is
that. Yep, we've got that.
yeah,
But we'd
which
also
is
talked about the possibility of doing some kind of coordination, right?
Yeah,
You
which
know,
I
with
love.
the town.
yeah.
Um,
But yeah, so
I-
there were a few missing from there, but then there was also like 5-1 Vape, and I think and there's the Area 51 smoke
Mhm.
shop. So I was wondering if they were included. I want to make sure that they are regulated under the same ordinance because otherwise I think it's unfairly targeting,
yeah.
you know? So,
Yeah, no,
yeah.
it would make
Mhm.
sense to have a comprehensive list, and I did email Jennifer just to
Oh, you
find out
did?
about that map too, yeah.
Oh my gosh, you're
Yeah.
so quick. Okay, so, all right. So this is one where like I would love to just like basically verbatim. Let's see. I love that it mentions in section A, a change in ownership or address requires a
Mhm.
new license,
Yep.
non-transferable, non-assignable. It does say there's like a bullet underneath that, and it says pursuant to section 3364 of the public health law. I have no idea what that is. I was like, I have to look this up because I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
But obviously, one of the other things that it says in here
There's
toward
no
the
link.
end is that this is not meant to, and it's the severability clause, which we always put in there as well, which is that it's not meant to duplicate or supersede any existing state statute. I find like I need paper so that I can like
Oh, I
highlight
hear
and
you.
cross out, but like
Now I'm
now I don't
seeing-
have the links.
Like, there's a link here, and I can
Yeah.
open it, and it's New York State legislation, let's see. Public health,
Like, what
registered
does this sound-
organization shall be a for-profit business entity, so yeah, it's more definitions, it's lengthy.
Okay. Compliance monitoring, suspension or revocation. License. I literally wrote on one page, why do we keep saying this about arm's length transactions? What is that stuff?
So they give you money, you give me a good in return.
Oh,
Pretty much.
what a weird
Reason
phrase.
C4 has to deal with medical marijuana.
I was gonna say, it says that it shall not, yeah, what I'm reading here is it's about, yeah,
Okay, cool. Okay.
so that, okay, so yeah, that would separate out medical marijuana from it too then.
Okay. Oh, that's great.
Which makes sense,
Yeah.
so.
Okay. Oh, well, yeah. Although that's interesting because it says this is in regard to. Oh, I see. They don't need a retail license. Got it.
For what?
So this is underneath A, under
Mhm.
the general requirements, tobacco retailer's license required. But what's interesting is like we're calling it tobacco, so I don't know why that would have to do with medical marijuana. And why you would need a retail license.
That's a good question.
I don't
We might
know.
have to
That
ask.
seems like maybe, alright.
Yeah, that might be
I'm gonna put a DM.
I was gonna say that might be a first
I'm ready,
question.
I'm ready to ask him a bunch of questions about this. Yeah, I didn't have any other, so,
Mhm.
section C there, about smoking prohibited. I think that's a state
Oh, in
law,
an
so
indoor,
I don't think
yeah,
we
I
need
mean,
to
it's
add
talking about
that.
indoor spaces, so yeah.
Right, okay, that's what I thought, and so I'm gonna cross that out.
Okay.
And then, minimum legal sales age, isn't that set by the state?
I was gonna say, that's not something we
It's a
can
state
set
thing too,
anyways,
right?
so.
Okay, alright.
I mean, I know that we could, what we're doing, is trying to, regulate it further, which we can do, I know we
Right.
just can't go the other way.
Right, right.
So.
But I think, yeah, I mean, if it's set by the state, and I think
Yeah.
I think for enforcement purposes, having it be the state minimum age makes sense
Yeah.
because, basically we're trying to, decrease density and, prevent sale to minors.
Mhm.
So, I don't know.
Yep.
Making it more hoops to jump through doesn't seem to be
Yeah, I agree. And if-
necessary.
If it's something that's already a requirement, it's already required by state
Right.
law, this is a time that I would rather pare out something like that and
Totally.
keep it, we've already got some areas that are gonna look lengthy.
Totally.
So,
Self-service displays, same thing. I think that's not allowed in New York State.
I don't think
I've
so.
never
Yeah.
ever seen where I could just
Oh,
go
it's been
get
a long
something.
time since we've seen those
Right?
old
I know.
cigarette.
They actually
Dispensing
mentioned the
machines.
vending
Yeah.
machines. I'm like, oh boy.
I still have them in South Carolina.
Oh boy.
Wow.
Okay, so this H again is I think really good because it says all sales of tobacco products should be conducted in person at the licensed location, and it's a violation to deliver.
Do we,
Or-
is that a tobacco delivery? Is that?
I don't even know if that's a thing, but I think that
Yeah, okay.
it's a good thing to just call out, like, hey, we don't want you to do this.
I'm just
Um,
curious, because, I don't know.
Maybe you can get pot delivered, so maybe you can.
Like, that's what
I
I was
know.
wondering. I've never heard of tobacco delivery, that's all, but, okay.
Yeah. Let's see. Section 3, sale of flavored
That's
tobacco
the
products.
flavored ones, and I think that's, from what Jennifer was telling us, that's really one of the areas of concern with youth,
Mm-hmm.
and especially those, the vapes with the games on them that
Yep.
she was showing us.
Yep. Yeah. So I thought that was good. I actually kind of wanted to strike this tobacco product pricing and packaging. This whole section.
The whole section, okay, let me check
Just
that.
seems really strange. Except I like the idea of this one of distribution of samples or promotional items.
Again,
I-
are those things even legal?
I don't know.
I would be really surprised, but I mean, that's something
Yeah.
else that would have to be, researched, because I don't know. but-
Yeah, but I mean, if it is legal, I would like to include it.
If it
'cause that
is
seems
legal,
like,
that makes sense, but I don't even know if that's legal.
yeah.
That might be another,
Okay, so
Where
I'm
is
gonna
that?
just strike that, and I'm gonna write. Well, I'll just
Ask
put a
him
little
about that.
question mark so that I know.
yeah.
And then save the coupons. I don't think you can redeem coupons for. I don't think in New York
Oh,
State
this
you
whole,
can do that.
honor
Yeah.
redeem coupons.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like, yeah.
And then the next two are the ones where it's like setting the I don't think we should get into that. Like we don't have, in my
Size for
opinion,
little cigars.
that's a little bit more
Yeah.
for like a bigger city where you have like a division of enforcement and you
That's
have
true.
people who can
Yeah.
go out and check to make sure that there's stickers on all of your tobacco products. We are just
Yeah.
not. I don't think that's really applicable to
I
us
agree.
personally.
I agree.
Limits on eligibility is the next section. Again, we
Yeah, again,
won't
I'm
give an
really
issue, or we won't
curious.
issue it
Yeah.
for mobile vending. So B, licensed cannabis businesses.
Yeah, what is?
So that's interesting because basically they're saying they wanted to. To
So
me, it
is
seems like we're keeping
separating
tobacco and cannabis separate, which might be good considering. I mean, but it seems like it already is illegal because
I'm not sure I understand.
like the
Yeah.
purpose of that.
Yeah, I think that one I wanna
Think about.
marinate, talk to Jennifer maybe too, get her input, cause that
Okay.
one I'm not sure I understand the
Yeah.
whereas.
Right.
And I'd wanna understand why we were
I
putting
know
it
exactly what you
in,
mean.
you know,
Yeah. What's the whereas? I'm gonna
yeah.
use that in my
I
life.
just, if there's a compelling reason, I'd like to know, I just don't understand why.
Right.
I mean,
Right, like
if
if
what we're
Doja
trying
wanted-
if what we're trying to do is decrease density, okay, would we want to
Yeah.
separate those things out? And I don't know,
Right.
it just seems like in some way it might accidentally increase density, but maybe there's something I'm missing here.
The only thing I'm thinking is that in some of what I was reading, they were saying that people who smoke tobacco,
Mhm.
especially flavored tobacco,
are also more likely to smoke cannabis. So I
So
think
maybe
they're
there's some
thinking
kind
like,
of connection
you
between
go
cannabis
there-
use and then using tobacco or
I
vice
think
versa.
that vice
even.
versa. Like if
Okay.
you had, like if you went to a tobacco shop
Mhm.
to buy your cigarettes and you were like, oh well, maybe
Yeah.
I'll try.
I think this is a good one to ask
marijuana.
Jennifer about, probably.
Yeah.
It's not a legal thing, but something to maybe ask Jennifer.
Yeah, like
Or
yeah.
input.
What's the thought there?
Yeah.
I can see that. Now that we've talked about it, I can see the connection, but I would want to think about it because
Yeah.
I think you make a good point about density.
Yeah,
which is
well,
like if you're a smoker.
think about it and like
Then-
I'm looking at our list and I wish we hopefully we'll have a density kind of map to look at and I just want to get a better sense of
Yeah.
how that will impact the businesses that are existing too. So
Yeah. Okay. Again, C pharmacies. That's outlawed in New York State, so that we don't
Yep.
need. Proximity to youth-oriented facilities. This is like the big deal, right? And proximity
Yes.
to other tobacco
and
retailers.
this
That's what
I
we're
think
trying
is
to
where
do.
we were talking about like with this number that I remember her saying that she could come up with a map and I think
Yep.
this is what she was getting at where we could play around with those distances
Yep.
and see what was the right distance for our city.
Yeah.
Because I see the 1,000 in here, but I know we've also talked about 500 feet, and
Right.
neither of us is good at gauging those.
I know,
So
I'm
I'd
like-
rather see, something that that we can
Yeah.
work with.
Well, I'm assuming, okay, this building is probably 100 feet wide.
Are we going beyond Carrie's expertise?
I know, I'm like, Carrie
that
knows.
big. That big.
It's this big, and if there were 5 of them, is that big enough?
So
I mean,
there's
Greg's on
5,000
there.
Right,
There
come
are
down.
5,280 feet in a mile. So if
Yeah,
Oh,
you're really,
Yeah.
if 500 feet is basically a tenth
a
of
tenth
a
of a
mile.
mile.
Oh.
Okay.
If that makes it
See,
any easier.
thank you.
I
That does make it so much
if you
easier.
think that it's a mile between, say, Stewart's and Riverside, is it a mile? I don't know that it's a mile, cause
No.
the math that I'm doing helps me not at all. I would say. But if it is a mile,
A tenth of a
then
mile.
that
Yeah.
500 feet is a tenth of that, or a little
Okay.
bit more,
That
a
makes
little bit
sense.
less than tenth.
So we're talking maybe
Right? So
like a tenth to a quarter.
a tenth of a
almost.
mile
Less
is
than a
about
quarter.
500
Yeah.
feet.
Okay,
Okay,
so a tenth to 2/10.
This is why I have Google Maps.
I know, this is good.
The
Okay.
distance proportion is not something that I'm.
Okay,
So
well,
how
I'm just
close
gonna
is
Google it.
that?
I think
How
that's-
close is Stewart's to the park? Is it 500 feet? I mean,
Oh,
Maybe
yeah,
it's a
see,
tenth
like
of a
those are the
mile,
kinds of things
but I
that.
feel like Dosha is definitely within 500 feet of the teen center. So,
Yeah.
and I don't know what
Oh,
that
right.
I don't know what the
Well,
language
and
is.
that's where it would have to get into like, I remember that there was something about rolling it out, right, with like existing
Yeah.
businesses, right?
So, yeah, so no new license, and this is in here, is basically grandfathering in existing businesses.
Yeah.
So no new license could be issued within those parameters, and if a license were to lapse, you couldn't renew it.
Mhm.
But if you maintain your license,
Yeah.
you could be there for 50 years.
Yeah.
And then, what was the other thing? Oh, if if the city were to just like create a new park or a playground or a youth-oriented facility were to move in, you would also be subject to that same criteria. So, it's not meant to be punitive. It's meant to restrict growth of that type of facility. Yeah. So, yeah, like Dosha would be fine. Stewart's would be fine, for now. And then if Stewart's ever were to, that's basically the thing about it being, not transferable or not assignable, is that like if Stewart's were to ever sell and become a different gas station franchise, like that gas station franchise would not be allowed to sell them where they are now. So, but that's in here, it's just a bit later. Okay, so I have crossed out this proximity to cannabis retailers. I had a question mark there, but then your,
Oh, the last one there? Okay.
yeah, your kind of point about if we're trying to decrease density.
Yeah, I'm
or-
just.
decrease density, increase distance, keeping them separate, it just doesn't seem like it makes a lot of sense to even include that, so.
Yeah. I'm still curious about the other one that we talked about, but yeah, that makes, I feel like, even less sense.
Even less sense, for sure. Yep, okay. Yes, so this is, I highlighted what we just spoke about, which is that if there was an existing retail license that did not meet the proximity locations and their license expired, it would not be renewable. One of the things that I thought was interesting in this note here is that it says some jurisdictions have created a hearing process, which I think would be, I would just want to define what that is. Obviously, we have a couple of hearing bodies.
Yep.
Right, like, so when a permit is denied, people go to,
Depends on what kind of permit,
Yeah.
okay,
not to be.
no, that's what I was wondering. Okay. So we would wanna define like what that hearing process is, but I think that it's good to have it, you know, just to protect ourselves from any sort of claim of, prejudice or whatever. Let's see. Okay, so population and density.
Yeah, I was gonna
This is what we were really trying to nail down, and I think having the distance thing would be helpful. Because one of the things that they do, like in the very first bullet here, is total number of tobacco retailer license shall be limited to, they do it based on population. Which I think is fine, except that population can fluctuate, density could increase,
Yeah.
you know, but we still don't want, like, if we suddenly had, you know, 1 million people in a bunch of high-rise buildings, we probably still don't want any more than, you know, if we're gonna put density and distance regulations in place, it doesn't seem like we would want to base it on our population if we're
Yeah.
planning on increasing population density.
So
Yeah.
this would be, so there would be a thing for distance and a thing for population, or would we,
Well, so
like,
no.
do they go, or do we, okay.
So
Yeah.
I struck this whole
Okay,
thing
I was gonna
basically.
say, it feels like, you know, one or the other probably
Yeah.
covers enough, that just seems like very layered.
Yeah, we
too.
had also talked about, and so I wrote this down,
Mhm.
having like a cap.
Yes.
And so like starting out at like
Yep.
20, and then we wouldn't issue any new licenses as long as the number remained over 20.
Mhm.
And I think that, yeah, bullet 3 here says no new license may issue to authorize it if it's already equaling or exceeding the total number that we've decided. So I think we want to decide on that scale
Yeah.
of how many. So how many is this, right? And we should just look at the city for now because
Yeah.
we do intend to partner with the town, but we don't have that partnership yet. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, and then I know of
And then you,
14, 15. So I think 15.
15, okay.
Listed here, and you know, give or take, right? Yeah, we don't have a licensing process, so we don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Okay. So I wrote 20, but maybe it's more like 15. And then we were talking about a process for diminishing that over time.
Over time, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know she, I don't know if I have it, I know she'd given us some information about
I
that at
thought
one
so
point.
too. And I have that on paper. I didn't bring it.
But yeah, I remember that being part of it. The diminishing.
Let me. Oh, cool.
Oh yeah, right here. They recommend
Oh, you have it?
eliminating
Oh,
use
great.
and penalties. No, not that, sorry.
Oh.
Just that other thing we were talking about not penalizing use.
Oh, yes. Yep.
Find the
Okay.
license holder, allocate funding
Oh,
for
it's 7.
compliance.
Okay.
Oh, is it? Oh, jeez.
So,
Yeah.
I just saw the time. So,
Okay.
what if we stop there, begin to think about how this could be rolled out,
Okay. And then we've got to
look
look for that
into
other.
those like diminishing returns?
Yeah, I remember she gave us something.
I feel like she did.
It
I
might
feel
have
like
been
it
on
may
email.
have been in actually one of the model statutes. Like was it Bethlehem?
Oh, maybe it was, cause I remember we looked at something.
Yeah.
Okay,
So this one we're going to amend
okay.
because we're not gonna do the population thing. And, well, I don't know, I'm just
Yeah,
speaking
no,
with
I'm
confidence, but-
agreeing.
okay,
But yeah,
okay.
so far, yes.
And we're going to, we have to strike section 2 completely, cause that's about the population, and then, so we'll keep 3, because that's the intent, which is to not issue licenses that equal or exceed the total number of authorized. So we just have to figure out, cause it says pursuant to subsection 1, we just have to figure out
Oh, right, yeah.
the total number, and then I think, 3 will become 2, and then actual 3 will be, how do we diminish
The
them
diminishing,
over
yeah.
time? Yeah.
Okay.
But I think the map will also help us.
I think so.
Right? 'Cause
I think
we can kind of
I know we talked
visualize.
about like looking at it and then really getting a better idea, you know, through that of, you know, what our current density and, you know, outlay kind of looks like.
Yep.
Because I think we'd also, like, just looking at this, there's trends of where, you know, places are located.
Right,
And that
it's
would be
interesting.
good for us to get a sense of that, you know, and how, you know, what that layout really is, you know. So
Yep.
that we can get the most effective, you know, policy.
So can I give, I don't want it to be homework, but a little bit of homework to the city clerk, which is we'll pick back up on license application procedure. And since this directly impacts you, could I have you just take a look at it and see if you have any feedback for us on things that you think
Oh,
will or will
yeah.
not work? The other thing is we would have to develop the application, and I'm wondering if we could mirror like an existing application. So if, okay, cool, rather than reinventing the wheel. Yeah.
Yes, right?
Okay, cool.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
That's what we do best.
All right, so, we'll pick back up there on this topic next time, and hopefully we'll have Shannon with us, which will be cool.
Yeah.
And then we can work together on our whereases, and I will make sure to send you.
Yeah, I haven't even gotten to that part, but I have a bookmark now, so I've got that. Yes.
Good.
Yeah.
I'll make
please
sure to
me.
send you this one too, so you can, again, this one's like way more concise, but I think that once we read through the Public Health Law Center one, we kind of decide what we wanna do.
Mhm.
Then when you take eyes to this one, this is at least what I found,
Yeah.
I was like, oh, yes, that says exactly what I was getting from the other one, but in a more
Okay.
succinct way.
Cool.
Or, I don't know if that really covers exactly what I think the other one did, so
All right.
I think
Great.
that will be really helpful. Okay, is there anything that you would like to update us on with regard to topic D?
You know,
If not, that's okay.
there's, I gotta say, with the, I just put my agenda away.
Oh, sorry.
Touch that. So that one was what, the Otsego Safe?
All
So-
your various involvements,
The
that are
Otsego
relevant.
Safe has not met yet this month, so
Okay.
we're just in between meetings.
Okay.
And, you know, but there's some great work happening there, and I'm just, you know, with the suicide, awareness and prevention, I know the conference that I went, you know, the theme was really around, creating, you know, connections and building those connections amongst the community. So that's something I continue to do, like inviting Gary to join Otsego Safe, you know, and other interested parties.
Cool.
So continuing to build those coalitions and,
Okay.
you know, just like we're doing here, you know, so.
Can I ask, is there anyone from the school district involved with Otsego Safe?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
Do you
Able to,
Know
yeah.
somebody who might be interested? Cause if we give Bonita Gibb is the one who organizes
Oh,
it.
okay, that name sounds so
Yeah.
familiar.
Yeah, she's lived in the city before. I don't know where she lives right now, if she's around, you know, super local, but she's organizing that. And
Okay, cool.
So,
Yeah,
yeah, if you know
just
somebody-
put out a feeler and see if
yeah,
anybody
yeah,
would be
because that would
interested.
be great. I know that we've talked about like some of, you know, there's a lot of focus on, you know, youth prevention, you know, and a lot of attention to that. So that would be great to have somebody from the school, you know, it's 1 hour, once a month,
Okay, that's
and,
helpful.
yep, yep.
To
They're
know.
also still focusing, you know, on some, they're gonna start working on some population-based, groups, like they started up this Men's Shed project to focus on men's mental health.
Oh, right, you had mentioned that last
Yeah.
time.
Yep, and then there's also an interest, I know, in starting up, LGBTQ specific, you know, supports, which
Cool.
if Tim France from Purdue had been here, he was also interested in starting up some pride, you know,
He
groups.
just emailed me.
Yeah, some pride groups
Ah.
around, you know, because there's
Cool.
no local, you know, groups, you know,
Okay.
for recovery that, you know, are for Pride specifically, the Pride community. So kind of related, but
Okay.
along those
helpful.
mental health services. And as far as the Otsego County Board, I did not make it to the Human Services meeting this month, and I heard that it was only 12 minutes long.
Right.
So I'm glad that I did not make the drive out to Cooperstown.
Right.
So I don't have any other updates from that yet either.
Okay, that's okay. Thank you for doing all of that. I think that it's really helpful, and I appreciate that you have the time to dedicate to that, and you know, it really benefits our understanding of what else is going on
Yeah.
around. Okay, the only other thing that I wanted to say was that I did write an official recommendation from the committee to the mayor and the city administrator and the chief of police with regard to the parking situation for Otsego County Mental Health. As far as I know to date, nothing has been done about that. There was some follow-up from the director, kind of
Yeah.
asking what was going on, but I also haven't heard any other complaints, so I'm wondering if it was just sort of an unofficial, like, potentially reduce enforcement in that area, which,
Okay.
you know, maybe wouldn't be the way that I would handle it, obviously, based on our recommendation, but, still kind of achieves the goal
Mhm.
nonetheless. So, I just still kind of have my eyes on that to
Okay.
see what's going on there. And I think that's it for today, if that's cool with everybody. I feel really good about the progress that we made on the tobacco-free communities legislation, and I'm excited to have heard a little bit more about what's going on with the services for veterans in the county, so thank you. Yeah.
One thing that I just want to mention that
Uh-huh.
had come up, and it was too late last year, we had talked about like cooling station and looking into
Oh.
funding for that, and it was already like July or August. So I just want to bring that up now,
Yes,
so that we
perfect.
can think about that
We
for the
will
coming year.
add that to our February agenda when it will still definitely be cold. And,
I know, it's like the, not when we want to think about cooling, but it's when we need to.
Right.
So-
Okay, and so I think it would behoove us to do a little bit of homework on ways that we might be able to advance that, because I think that there's broad support for that in the community and on council, and so we can look into potential funding sources, potential sites, things like that, and we'll get started talking about what we found out at our February meeting. Cool, and with that, we'll call it a day. We'll call it a month.